あの夜のことです。僕が脱走した夜。
I'm literally gonna wait for you. And I see you're gonna be like, nah, I'm not gonna like. I'm just keep watching.
Just subscribe.
And you think the clip gonna cut right here, but it's not because I'm still waiting for you to click that like button and the subscribe and the post notification button.
Heavenly Delusion is an anime that's been on my watch list for a very long time. I initially discovered it by chance, but after watching a few episodes, I kind of decided that I want to watch it, but also give it time, because I thought that it was an anime that really needs a lot of time and understanding for me to fully talk about. So I kind of took my time while watching it so that I could understand it better. What I found out is I still don't know what really is going on. So Heavenly Delusion's story is a very simple one, if you're on crack. Because there is no simple way to fully explain it. It's such a good mystery anime that even in me trying to tell you what the story is about, I sort of can't really do it, but I'll try to. So basically, we follow two, you could say, for hire monster hunters, Kiriko and Maru. Kiriko is a girl, Maru is a boy, and they're fairly young. So they travel the world, or well, to be specific, they travel parts of Japan in the hopes of finding heaven. Now, Kiriko is technically Maru's bodyguard. Her job is to help Maru find heaven, and that's pretty much it. Her job is to protect him. So on their way to find heaven, they go around hunting monsters. Now, you may be wondering, why would they be hunting monsters if they're in Japan? Well, they're in post-apocalyptic Japan, in the sense that I don't know what happened, but a lot has happened. So basically there's monsters roaming Japan, and only a few people can kind of kill them. And one of the people who can kill them is Maru. Maru has an ability where if he touches them, he has the ability to kill them. His gift is not explained. We don't fully understand where does it come from and how does he have this ability to just touch these monsters who seem to be borderline invincible unless using certain weapons or abilities like Maru's. So basically, in them being hunters, they kind of make money through hunting or just doing odd jobs or whatever. So it seems pretty simple. Okay, you know, the world's a mess and they're just trying to make it to a safe haven, so to speak, and they found a way to make some money. It sounds simple, but not really. Kiriko is not Kiriko. Well, that's what he said, and I'll explain that to you. Well, Kiriko, the girl that we meet, actually believes that she is her younger brother. How is this possible? Well, Kiriko believes that there was a transplant that happened, and she technically has the mind of her brother but is still in the body of his sister. It gets weird with the he or she because who is correct? But I'll give you a quick background story on what happened to Kiriko's brother. Well, Kiriko used to be a racer. She used to race and was making money off of it. She had a younger brother, and her younger brother was super protective over her. Well, one day in a race, a monster appears. Now, these monsters are very powerful, and it's not necessarily explained where they really come from, but they have a lot of abilities. Some monsters can be invisible. Some monsters can fly and also use thunder. Some monsters have the ability to use water. They have a lot of abilities that aren't really fully explained, and you just have to accept that. Basically, this monster had the ability to be invisible. So this monster had gotten onto the track, and Kiriko's younger brother was able to spot it prior to it going invisible. So he wanted to help his sister and get rid of the monster before they got to that part of the track. Yeah, it didn't end so well. Basically, he went there and yeah. So anyway, then what happens is that Kiriko, in the lead of the race, was actually headed towards that part of the track, but was able to spot the monster and therefore redirected all the racers. And she was about to leave until at the last second, she actually spotted something in the monster's mouth. And looking closely, she saw that it's her brother. And being the sister that she is, she immediately drove her quad bike straight into the monster in an attempt to basically try and help her brother. And she got into a huge crash. And while she was there, just laying there borderline lifeless, she kind of noticed that it was too late for her brother, because when that monster let go of him, half of him was missing. So you can kind of figure out what happened to him. She seems to go into, you may say, like a coma, or she just passes out. She has these flashbacks of operations that were happening, and she has a huge scar on her head. After discovering this and thinking about it, Kiriko believes that she's actually her brother, in the sense that his sister probably got brain damage or something during the accident, and to kind of save her life in a sense, they transplanted his brain that was still functioning into his sister's body, which was good but just didn't necessarily have brain function. I don't fully know what happened like that, that's why it's good. This conversation organically came from an interaction because Maru had started to develop feelings for Kiriko, and Kiriko was explaining to Maru why he's not interested in her. But the issue with that whole story was that in looking back, we're still confused about what is true. Is Kiriko really Kiriko? In the sense that the transplant actually happened and it's actually her younger brother who's in her body. Or could it be that Kiriko just went through such a traumatic experience that she's just trying her best to keep her brother alive in her in any sort of way? We don't know. So after that type of story, you kind of get an understanding that the anime doesn't really care about fully explaining everything to you. You get information just like anyone else would in terms of a story. It's about the person. The people tell you the story. Without that person wanting to fully tell you something, you'll never fully know. And this information is passed through so organically that every single time you learn something, you start to develop this urge to make sure that you take note of every single detail. Because the way the story is so complex, a small interaction could mean so much. And the biggest of interactions could mean nothing. One of my favorite episodes from the season is episode 10. Now, I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a character there, and the perception you have of him initially and the perception you'll have of him afterwards is hugely dramatic. One of the weirdest left turns that I've kind of experienced in a while, to the point that every time I think of that character, his whole story just blasts in my head. You had this character who said that he was on a revenge mission, but he seemed to be a very shady, goofy person. Someone who you kind of see in certain anime. Initially, they're a bad guy, but they could end up being a good person. He tells them a story about wanting to find his son after going through a very crazy experience. But because this anime is this anime, you don't know if he's really telling you the truth or if he's lying. Because again, information is passed through in the way that that person or the anime decides to tell you. So someone could tell you a story for 3 minutes and it turns out that after just really thinking about it for 5 seconds, he's lying. It's as simple as that sometimes. And you ask yourself, what was the point of the anime exploring or letting that character talk about that for so long? But then again, you don't know. And the significance of it could be high or meaningless, but the stakes always seem high in every conversation. But back to that character, he tells them about wanting to go on a revenge mission because he lost his son through something and he wants to find his son. Eventually he finds his son, and at the end of that whole scenario, you kind of see this man who was shady initially transform into a proud father, a happy father, someone who's glad to find his child. It was so cool that I thought to myself, like, wow, okay, like he's a really good guy. And then near the end of the episode, it cuts into a scene where I'm sorry for spoiling, I'm gonna spoil, but not too much. But basically, he then kills someone, and after killing that person, he goes on the run. Kiriko and Maru at that point already are gone. So they're just left with this idea of him being this good person, and they're happy for him. He found his son. But in truth, you kind of realize that he was telling you facts at the start of his story. He was on a revenge mission, and ultimately he got to enact his revenge. but you could see in his face that he was a bit conflicted. He's not really a killer, but he felt that sort of pain that he needed to get justice. And afterwards, I kind of looked at him in a different way, where I asked myself, is he really a bad guy or a good guy? And I couldn't really decide on that because there were valid reasons for both actions, whether it was not doing that or doing that. It just seemed like that brief story of him seems so insignificant, but means so much for the story. You never truly understand anything unless a character truly wants to be honest. This complexity within this anime is one of the reasons why I think that Heavenly Delusion has the potential to be a very great mystery anime, because of its ability to necessarily tell stories but not really tell full stories, and leave you wanting more and trying your best to understand and piece together a story that's so fragmented. But this anime is so unique, and I think that one thing that makes it so unique is the fact that it has some of the most beautiful animation I have seen. The blend of realism and also goofiness is so well intertwined with the story that it's just a perfect combination. Production IG did an amazing job with this anime. You can have moments of murder depicted so gruesomely and so realistically that you think it's real, and then you'll have moments where the animation gets so goofy and weird that you're just like, what is serious anymore? I just saw someone get killed, but then in the next scene Maru is laughing for all you know about being chased by a monster. It gets so comedic at times that you don't really know what's happening, and I think that this animation styling that the anime has is so perfect for the story because of the fact that it's not the world we're used to. It's a world that's after something crazy has happened. The normal rules don't really apply anymore, and you see this within people. People are weird, goofy, crazy, and it sometimes seems as though this is just what they have to do to survive in this new world. So you have these situations where things that were normally seen as scary or weird just get laughed at times. In a certain situation, Maru and Kiriko were actually being chased by an animal that kind of looked like a messed up bear, but the whole scene of them trying to escape from the bear and wait for the bear and eventually try and kill the bear was so funny that you kind of forget that this bear's trying to kill you guys. Why are you guys not taking this seriously? It's just such a weird world, and this plays well into the story because this anime has such a beautiful story, but it's so wacky and weird that you don't really get it. And I think that this is something that makes this anime so different from the other anime, because it's an anime that's so mysterious, so odd, so beautiful, so creative that I'm truly invested in the world, sometimes a bit more than the main characters. There's so much to be broken down, and it seems like this anime is really aware of it and doesn't care, because it stays true to the fact that we're just following this journey at whichever point we entered, and we're learning as the characters learn. And I think that this anime's ability to play on that and really dive into the mystery. Do you really know people? Do you really understand their story? Do you understand yourself? What is real? What isn't real? It dives into so many concepts of humanity that I don't understand how this anime went under the radar prior to its release. It's one of the most amazing anime that I've seen in a while, and I think that its complexity could be right up there with anime like Odd Taxi or Monster. I think that this anime is special. I could talk about it for days and discuss multiple theories that I have in my head about what's gonna happen, what's true, what's not, what's the point, and I could be completely wrong in everything. That is just how good this story is. And I think that if you're looking for an anime that really gets you invested in the characters, has a good story, has good animation, you've got it here with this anime. This is one of the best anime of this season. I think that it's #1. If you ever get the opportunity, please watch Heavenly Delusion, because if you haven't, you're missing out on arguably one of the best stories of the year. It's beautiful, it's amazing, it's Heavenly Delusion. You can't even really explain how good it is.